And we're live. And I'm waiting to mute myself. There we go. All right. So hopefully the chat that we have up and everything is working. I don't see anyone in there yet, but if you're there, tell me hello. So this is a new series I'm going to be starting, and it's going to be called Beyond the Boundaries. And I'm just going to have people on, and I'm not going to lie, it's probably going to be Joey a lot. To talk about different things that I feel like don't get discussed, or maybe just to philosophize, if you will. Just explore spirituality. I feel like that's a big part of it. And actually, Joey Morris, who I have with me today, for those of you who don't know her, you should, because she's amazing, was just talking about that in an interview with Arwen about it being an adventure. So that's very timely. But hi, Jennifer. Okay, so chat is working. Awesome. And so is my phone. No, thank you. Just gonna mute that. Here at Chris Ashburn, we are very professional. Yes, she is great to have on the show. Yay! The magpie is here.
Yes, we know.
I see you. So, Joey, if you want to introduce yourself, say hello, whatever you want to say.
Hello. So I'm Joey. What is that? I'm Joey from Joey Morris. No. From the YouTube channel Joey Morris. I think most people probably know who we are, but we're here today. We're going to chat about ancestors. We're going to be in the flux. We're hopefully going to keep it conversational and crazy like we do in private, just with everybody watching us.
Yeah.
This
should be interesting.
Yeah, people are going to be like, they're insane.
Yes, we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we were talking the other day, and so guys, I'm going to be blinding occasionally because sun, it happens.
It's natural radiance.
Oh gosh,
she's actually a glowworm. It's a lie. She's a glowworm. Yeah. It's all her.
Yeah, but we were talking about ancestors the other day, and we thought that it would be a good topic to kind of peruse around and explore. And you guys are welcome to jump in with any perceptions, perspectives, any thoughts that you guys have as well in the chat. That's why we're doing this live. And yeah, so I guess we're going to start with, also, Joey isn't just Joey. She's also Starry-Eyed Supplies.
Oh, yeah.
Which is an amazing store. So we're just gonna put that out there right now to make sure that gets mentioned, because she does candles and oils and amazing loose smudges and all kinds of things. She does balls.
You heard it here first, guys. I sell balls.
She does balls, and they're beautiful.
We call them orbs because me saying I sell balls is provocative.
She does orbs. Sorry. This is why I'm not her PR.
Don't tell people about my other business. Go on.
Hello, Christina. Hello, Courtney. Hello, everybody.
Welcome. We're not honestly talking about me selling balls, I promise.
No, we're not. I just wanted to plug that in there. But no, so today we're talking about ancestors and what that means to different people, and just kind of exploring that thought. So I guess I'm going to start with, what do ancestors mean to you, Joey? When you hear that word, what does it mean?
So I had trouble with ancestors and ancestor work for a long time, until fairly recently, and Chris and I have been discussing this as a result of sort of my ancestors being like, hi, we're here, like that sort of thing.
Surprise.
Guess what? Because I'm not connected to my immediate family other than my younger sister, my middle sister. So because I had this physical disconnect to my family, that meant that I felt like I was disconnected from my ancestors, and I didn't really know how to approach that. And with a lot of what you come across with regards to information, you kind of get the whole, this is how you set up an ancestor altar. And I'm like, I don't need to know how to set up an ancestor altar. I need to know what people think of when you have no way of knowing who your ancestors are from a living source. Then what happens? Because there is this like disconnect, and I feel disconnected, and I, without going and spending money on some chart, some service, and going and finding my ancestors, which I can't do right now, how do I engage with ancestors? And so this process and journey right now has kind of led me to the part where I feel what my ancestors are, which is kind of like, it's all been women so far, and this is something that Cris has helped with because she has her meditations about underworld journeying and meeting the grandmothers and things. And so for me, it has been all women at this point, and it's very difficult to put into words how I would sort of describe them. They're kind of like somewhere between very, very, very real beings and archetypes and energies, and it's all very fluxy in the flow, which is what we're all about right now. Like, it's very difficult to sort of put a pin and say this is what an ancestor is. It's not necessarily just this is somebody who gave birth to 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 me. So
yeah, I think that's a really good point, because when most people think of ancestor, they think of, you know, their mothers, or, you know, their fathers, if you want. But they don't also think about the fact that in a way, everything is our ancestor too. Like it's all the perception, and there's also like a difference between the kinds of ancestors. So there's an ancestor, the ancestors, and ancestors, which are like three whole different like sort of archetypes, if you will, to work with. And then also taking the fact that we are evolved. You know, at one point we were amoebas, you know, that is also part of our lineage. So when people say, you know, I'm a hippie pagan and I'm part of the earth, like we literally are. So there's also that avenue to go down too. So I like that you brought that up. I'm just bringing my light back up. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the reasons that, because you said it's been a lot of women, and I had that experience too. I have had male ancestors come forward, but predominantly it's been women. And I've often wondered if it was because I am a woman, or at least I identify as a woman. You know what I mean? Because it could be different with people who are two-spirit, etc. But I'm interested in knowing, like from the chat, if you have had any experiences with your ancestors. You know, were they mostly male? Were they female? Was it both? Like, did it, you know, how did you experience them? Were they a council, an archetype? Were they, you know, an actual person?
I wonder whether or not as well something comes into this that we both work with dark goddess energy. And whether like because we both work closely with dark goddess energy, then like the mothers and the mothers and the mothers are just naturally like an extension of that connection, so they come forward like that. I wonder if that has something to do with it. I was just thinking that as I was thinking, I wonder, especially with you work with the goddess of the underworld, and I work with Babe, who arguably is a goddess of the underworld, and so whether that connection is just almost foreshadowing in a way, like
What's womb-like?
Yeah.
It's womb-like. Mm-hmm. So of course, you know, that stands to reason that we would work with the womb or the bearers of the womb, I guess you could say. So yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think of that, but yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons that Hecate has a cauldron that's just off camera, guys. That I work with. It's my great grandmother's, and it's about the mother of the mother of all, and so that makes sense to me. Yeah. The chat has gone quiet. It's telling us, I want to know about your ancestors.
It's definitely gone quiet, and we're not having like retrograde issues, are we? I'm just going to refresh it just in case.
I hope not. Let's see. Now the live feed is still going, because I have it up, just muted. I do see people saying that balls is apparently a good word to use. And the Magpie did an ancestor reading last night. So yay, they're still there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So something I don't do that often is that I do ancestral readings for people. I used to do it like as a job, like as my business. But that can get very demanding. So that specifically, now people just kind of show up and that happens.
Ooh, I had a Scottish ancestor come through as well. So
that's interesting.
Just as a side note,
yeah,
Cris had no choice but to do me an ancestor reading.
I didn't. They literally would not leave me alone. Like, she told me one thing and I went, I know where this is going, but I don't want to go there. And then she told me another thing and I was like, ugh. And then another thing and I was like, fine, I'm getting the cards.
When I had ancestors show up in when Arwen was doing me a reading, which wasn't an ancestor reading, they just showed up like, hi. And that was a picked woman with all the blue markings all over and bright red hair. And I've seen her since, so they've been quite demanding of late. So it's been kind of a journey and a process for me recently. And I think a lot of people have been feeling that ancestor energy, even in the northern hemisphere where we're going to Beltain rather than in the southern where they're going to Samhain, which is traditionally associated with the dead. But
it's the middle. It's the between. That's, I mean, I feel like every time we hit it, whether it's Beltain or it's Samhain, it's that between moment, and it happens.
I feel like this is a year of that anyway. I feel like this is an underworld year.
Yeah.
Like, we had so much death in 2016 and breakages and all sorts, that 2017 has kind of felt like an underworld space for me.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of this, since Samhain, it's felt very much like an underworld space for me. And I've been kind of like this ever since. And I've been reaching out to people like Cris and like the Magpie, who have had similar experiences to me. And it's all been very like, even with like spring equinox and even with upcoming Beltane, how normally it's all like flowers and shinies, and this year has not been like that at all. It's been like there are flowers but also skulls. That's been this year in a nutshell, I think.
What's interesting about that is you wrote a blog post a while back and shared like the skull with the flowers in it and everything. I had a woman from my community here, totally unrelated to you, doesn't know about, you know, the YouTube community, if you will, there. And she was telling me, she's like, this spring just feels really off. Like there's a focus on death and the underworld and yeah. And so I'm like, well, let me show you this blog post. and then I was like, let me show you Anastasia Autumnfire's mixture that she did, because she did a loose mix and for the season, and it had crow energy. And I'm like, And she's like, I don't know why I'm doing this. This is just what I feel. And I'm like, no, you're on the nose there, sister. Like, that's exactly how it's feeling this year. So it's not just you. There's a lot of people that are picking up on that. But it makes sense. You build from the ground up. So if everything was torn down, if we just went through a sort of tower card, then this is where we have to start building. And hello, Wonder Weirdness Witchcraft. Got new people. Yeah. So one thing that I always notice that's different when people like start working with their ancestors, and I wanted you to like kind of talk about, and we'll segue into all that, is the difference of thinking that they are separate from you and untouchable in a sense, or unconnected. And the fact that once you know them in that sense, you're very connected to them and you can talk to them constantly, and you realize that fully. Like, even though they're not physically here, they can be physically here in ways. So like, what are you feeling with that now that you've like experienced it?
So I was, like I said, I was very disconnected, and I was feeling very disconnected from my ancestors. And one of the ways that they started coming into my life, that me and Cris have spent a lot of time talking about and examining, is the coffee divinations, which is becoming a book. Like, the coffee divinations, there's like 4 or 5 of them now,
with like big lovely pictures, and then underneath of it you have to put the coffee you were using, because everybody always asks that.
And I did not paint this.
I see a moose. I see a moose, and I see this, and you're just like, no, it's this coffee.
So in nearly, I'm going to say in all of those coffee divinations, there were ancestors. And it became very much about looking at the shadow as well as the light. And there was all this interplay. And it was just ancestors, 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 to the point where one of the pictures looks like a skull, like looking forward. One of them looks like a skull from like the side, as if you took like a cross piece. But there are always ancestors there. And I was like, this is something that I am being told. And like, it's very real. It's physical, something that I can take pictures of and see. It's tangible. I need to do this. And that's the first time that I had ever felt like that, because I've always felt kind of disconnected from ancestors because of this familial disconnection in the physical realm. And so when I went and started examining it, one of the first messages that I got was, you are not alone. And in the process of blogging about it, I was like, I kind of mentioned like that in like one sentence, and I was like the first kind of message, which seemed kind of obvious, is you're not alone. And then I realized that that was actually far deeper than I had given that credence for, and it kind of went into my shadow, into my feeling disconnected from tribe, which is something else that had been healed during this process, reaching out to people, looking at Magpie, looking at Cris and others that I consider to be tribe now, because of the weird, surreal, parallel experiences and interconnected synchronicities that you can't explain away, because there's so many of them that have been happening. And so at first I was like, oh, it's talking about tribe, and oh, it's talking about ancestors, like, you're not alone. So when I went and got into the actual work of the ancestors, it was a whole other level. It was a whole other level of, no, you are not alone. We have never abandoned you. We have never left you. We're in your being, in your blood. We're all around you all the time.
And it's such a powerful feeling too.
It like that.
I mean, it seems like such a simple few sentences, but they're so powerful when you're actually in that space and you are literally feeling them surrounding you. Like, you have not lost us. with me and with my native heritage, I was not brought up with an elder in my family, because the one that would have known things was dead before I was born. And so I always kind of grew up with this like yearning and this almost sort of resentment, the fact that like I didn't get to experience that, like it was lost. And I would never have the knowledge that she could have shared with me. And so I danced in powwows and stuff, and I would take in anything I could find that, you know, an elder would share, you know, impart any wisdom. And then one time I was at a sacred fire tended by an elder, and just all of them came out shoulder to shoulder from like the mist in this field, and I could feel her hand on my shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I realized in that moment that it was not gone. All I had to do was just shift my focus and, you know, perceive that there is a reality beyond what I can physically touch. And not only that, that what I physically touch essentially came from them, is part of them. And that sentence, like, you are not alone, you are loved, we have never left, that is such a powerful vibration that it made me cry. It made me weep, because it's a coming home.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I'm going to take that and run with that, because for me, I'm one of these people that has never felt like they had a home. It's because I grew up in an awful, awful environment. That was never home to me. That was something to be survived. That was not home. And I felt like for the rest of my life, I had been looking for home. And to a degree, I still am. There's still a part of me that is looking for something which is missing, that I feel is home. But when I came to that ancestry space, that was like home. And that was like a home that's within as well as without. So it made me bawl my eyes out as well, because it was like, I have never felt that I had a home, but home was all around me all the time. I just didn't know it was there. So it was one of those moments of like deep.
Yeah. You're like, I don't know, man. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when that first happened with the fire, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. But wow, something just happened, that's for sure. And then, you know, I started diving more into it, and you know, I grew up doing monthly drummings, women's drummings, and we would drum the heartbeat and connect with the earth and the ancestors. But even then, it wasn't, I could hear them or like see them dancing in the distance, but it wasn't the physical touch of this one that I had essentially mourned, never knowing. And then I realized in that instance that she knew me. She knew every ounce of me, because she was part of me. And that's actually thought with the coffee that you were talking about, the fact that it's at the bottom of your cup after you're done. Like, I find that so symbolic of the fact that it's what you're taking in, and it's at the base of it all. You know, it's at the roots.
And it's bean.
Hello, Patty.
It's coffee beans, so it's like seeds. So it's got that kind of rebirthy feel to it. Yeah, I love that.
This is making me want coffee now. My cups are not as interesting as Joey's, just for the record. They're not. I mean, like my cups are pretty fun, but my coffee isn't as interesting. I need some of those psychic beans.
Coming soon to Starry Eyed Supplies, psychic coffee bean.
Well, Christina did say do a photo book.
To be honest, I could probably do a photo book. I could probably manage that bit. They have been surreal, so
it could be like the best Where's Waldo ever. Although I think you guys call it something different over there.
It's Where's Wally?
Where's something? Yeah, Wally. Where's Wally? Yeah.
Where's the ancestors? Everywhere.
Yeah, all over the place. Trick question. No, but that was actually really interesting because, like you said, you're focusing on the light and the dark because you had the cream and like the deeper coffee bean color, and it would mix, and like we would invert it on a Photoshop program and then like flip it around. Like my husband's like, "Why are you not coming to bed?" And I'm like, the coffee, man. Like, look, there's a rabbit. We were just talking about rabbits.
Oh, the rabbits was crazy. The literally going down the rabbit hole with rabbits and fox energy, and they're in the coffee, they're in my dreams, they're in gifts that I've given to tribe members 6 months ago, and now it's all come full circle as to why they needed it. It's been crazy, and it's all tied into ancestors in another way though, because that's all to do with roots and going back to roots and looking at the roots of that was more to do with fears, but then that kind of plays into the ancestor things as well, like fear of being alone.
The masks,
yeah,
of all the different experiences of those people, all those different perceptions.
Yeah, and Magpie and I have a connection because of rabbits as well. So that it sort of like the rabbits sort of started at me and kind of like went trickling out to all these different people. Like these little rabbits have gone like flying through the
I mean, they do multiply very heavily. So it's the nature of the beast, I guess.
It's been surreal. Like since this ancestor thing has come through though, the messages upon messages upon messages have been surreal, and I've always felt quite keyed into like the energies around me, but now I'm like, I know what I need to know, and I know if I need to go speak to someone right now, and I know if someone needs to hear this message right now, and it's really clear after having contacted and joined joined completely with the women around the fire of the ancestors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know, some cultures actually, they go to their ancestors first before they go to deity, if you will, because they say that the ancestors have a very personal interest vested in them and in their line and their namesake and that kind of thing. And so like they'd oftentimes go to them faster because they're closer to that vibration as well in some ways. I can see that, and then at times I'm also like, yeah, but deity is also in everything and very close to you as well. So, and then my whole like, it depends on what you mean by ancestor. Flux, it's fluxy.
We're fluxing.
So yeah, that's one of those things where like it's very interesting to me that multiple different cultures look at it that way. So the fact that it made it like immediate to you and things happening right now, and you just need to reach out and they're always right there. I assume that's the kind of energy that they would work within too,
Well, I don't think there's a disconnect, if you would ask me personally, like between deity and ancestors. I don't think they're necessarily rigid, completely different things. Like we've talked about Underworld and Flux, like how everything intermingles with we've talked about how everything is all fluxy and intermingled and within and without one another, and hi. And I don't think there is a disconnect. I think like these women, these ancestors we talked about earlier, maybe that's why we see them as elements of women, because we're connected with dark goddess energy. I don't think they are as separate as this.
Well, and it might not even be dark, it could just be goddess in general.
Oh yeah.
Because if you look at the like let's explore our term dark goddess. Like you and I both are kind of like when we use it, because it's still kind of dividing things off so that for the sake of conversation and to talk about it, but really like they flow into each, like it's goddess energy. And all women have the different facets within them. All men have the different facets within them. So, that's like a whole other thing. But going on, well, welcome to the flux. But that's that womb thing. It could just not be only a dark goddess, but just goddess. Period. Because I mean, I know there's a woman that does retreats locally, women's retreats, and she also does like Walking with the Goddess kind of retreats. And she brings women back to when they served Goddess, when there were like priestesses of goddesses actively held in regard in the communities, and the connection between them there. And so that just made me think of her, actually, and like the work that she does with that. And maybe that's also part of it. Let's see. Hi, Andrew. Hi, Briar. Hi, Patty. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Flux.
This is our local radio station from the Underworld in the Flux.
Yes.
Welcome to the madness that is our chat.
Yes. Yeah, you guys are basically getting to sit in on like what our normal chat would be.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes everywhere.
From deeply, deeply spiritual to nonsense in seconds.
Yeah. To reading coffee to anything else. The future is your oyster. Yeah. But that them being there now. I talked earlier about the yearning thing and the fact that I never got to know. One thing that I found very heavily working with them is, thank you, Patty. One thing that I found very heavily in working with them is that knowledge that was theirs. You can readily open yourself to and have access to that. Mm-hmm. And it's just really, there's something so validating in knowing that you can, you're like, what do I need in this? Mugwort. Why do I need mugwort? That doesn't even, mugwort. Okay, I'm getting mugwort. And you feel them, so you know them, you know who it is. It's not like someone's coming in and trying to trick you. Like, you've worked with these people, you know these people, you know how they feel, you know their love, and you know their voices. And they will come in and they will tell you things. I mean, half the time when I'm making like an herbal cocktail, if you will, like, they're telling me what to do. Like, I'm going with it. I don't even... And then like later I'll look something up and go, oh, that's why I did that. I didn't know about that, like that wives' tale thing or that story or this thing. And it's like, you also have access to that knowledge of those women who have, what did I call the mortar and pestle the other day to you? A piece of history that many wise hands have touched.
I love that.
And it's like having access to those wise hands.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a cool thing. to put it mildly, like, it's such a cool thing, man.
So when I contacted my ancestors, I'm not going to go into specifics about which bits and pieces because it's still raw on the table to me. It's still things that I'm working through, but there was a rune involved, and it was a Nordic rune, and I have Viking ancestry for anybody who... I'm from England. We pretty much all have Vikings at some point. We got invaded a lot. Yeah. Well, I say that though, like my immediate...
You got invaded a lot by like everyone.
My immediate family are more Welsh. I'm 3/4 Welsh rather than English. There we go, just in case anybody was interested. And there was a Nordic rune that came up in the process of this first major meditation that I did with them, which was in 2 parts. And I have worked with the Nordic runes in terms of spell work, but I can't divine with them. It never worked for me. I was better off with the Ogham and all that side of things. And I was like, I don't recognize this. And I heard what it was. Somebody told me, an ancestor told me which rune it was. And I was like, iPad. Oh, that was right. And I cried at that point because it was this huge moment of validation, because I wouldn't have remembered what the name of that particular rune was, because I've done a little rune work, but I did it years ago and I didn't like keep up with it, and my memory's rubbish anyway, so I forget things that I actually know, and I'm like, come on.
That's why she takes 50 notes. She really does. Like, we'll be talking and she's like,
Yeah.
Let me just.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
But that also that also helps with pattern identification as well, though, for me to write everything down, and I can then see the patterns. But for to hear this ancestor be like, it's that rune, and then I Google it and it is that rune, and then that rune was like spiritual inheritance. I was like, like it blew my mind. It was one of those occasions of pure synchronistic affirmation, like validation, like this is real. This is not you made this up in your head somewhere. This is very real, because I didn't tell myself, because I don't remember at all. I didn't
Yeah.
But there's been moment after moment after moment like that when working with the ancestors, that everything has kind of kicked up a notch. It's kind of become like almost like you download like spiritual messages through the ancestors, like you download, and it's not just messages in terms of things you need to know, but things you should remember from like a past life, or but not quite a past life. And it's kind of like passed down through spiritual heritage is kind of what they're saying at me right now. Like, I got spiritual heritage, Joey, talk sense. My ancestors, by the way, they're all very
Spitfires.
Yeah.
They're all Spitfires.
Oh, so did you hear what I said about not having any ideas about my heritage?
I don't think so. I think she came in later.
Okay, so why we're talking about this particularly is because that I have disconnect with my physical family. So I didn't have that avenue open to me either. And I had that same kind of resistance and not knowing where to go with heritage, and I had no way of accessing that information. So then the ancestors came to me, and I think that what's key to that is that you don't need that physical interaction with your physical family necessarily. If you don't have it, it's not a problem. You can still connect to your ancestors in the spiritual realm. Because for me, I was always resistant, like, oh, well, everybody has their pictures of their immediate family on their thing, and I really don't want that for reasons of my own, and that energy's not great there, and that feeling's not great there, and but then when I reached out and went beyond that, it was something entirely different.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah. You know, and that's actually, I was telling her before we started broadcast too, I've been asked by people who are adopted, you know, in terms of working with their ancestors, like, what does that mean for them? You know, because they think, okay, so I don't get to work with them. And actually, I have found in my experience so far is that they actually get double the pleasure, double the fun, because they have not only their blood heritage, but also those that have adopted them into their lineage as well. So they get like twice the amount. Like they are filled with ancestors when I, you know, do readings or talk to them about that kind of stuff. So you know, that's another thing that I want to put out there. People can feel really disconnected with that, and you know, you're not. You know, you might physically be, you know, not talking to your birth mother or something like that, or not able to relate, or they might be just really unhealthy for you. But that doesn't mean that those before aren't there to support. That doesn't mean that those before don't care about what happens to you and don't care about you knowing them even.
Especially, I think, if you've put yourself in a position where you're open to that bond, because you've gone searching for that bond, which maybe others in your family have completely and utterly ignored for reasons of their own. I think many of us who are deeply spiritual, and when we're disconnected from other people, it's less likely that they're going to be deeply spiritual in the same way that we are. So it's quite likely that we are going to be like reaching for this bond in the spiritual realm, whereas the people that we're disconnected from are less likely to be reaching for that bond. So in a way, it kind of like reaffirms to them as well as reaffirms to you that you're part of that tribe, you're part of that spiritual family, and you've given offering, you've given respect, you've given validation back to them as well, in a sense.
Yeah, and that's a lot of things. Like lately, not just with you, but with multiple people in the last week, maybe even longer actually, the term ancestral healing has come up a lot, and that's also a good thing to mention, is that it's not only like them giving us things, we can help them. You know, we can help strengthen that, we can help pour back just as they pour too. And in a lot of ways, like with my mom and I, we both work with ancestral healing and doing that sort of thing. In a lot of ways, it pours forward as well. So for those that will come or have yet to be, or that are just being born, or will one day grow into it, us staying linked in, us carrying that knowledge, being knowledge carriers, knowledge keepers, that also helps them in the future too. And so that ancestral healing is such an encompassing thing, when you look at it like that. You know, well, chat is like fired up. Do you feel like a heritage of ancestors who follow a non-pagan path matters? Or once the physical world is left, the ancestors might have less problems with the difference in belief? So I think, so this is a tricky thing, because in my experience, I feel like it depends on the ancestor sometimes, because some of them are not ready to let go of that physical perception of things. And so it's more difficult. Then others will do, as I like to call it, joining with the ancestors as a council, if you will, where they are perfectly in the flux, if you will, and are able to see the common threads in things. And so I think it depends. But I also think that we as living humans are more terrified of that in most cases than they are. Because we are more terrified of offending someone, or like them getting angry at us. And the thing is like, they will let you know. They will let you know. You know what I mean? It's not, you know, there will be warning signs here. And as long as you're open, like we were saying, to hearing that, I don't think it's as cut and dry. You know,
I think I was in one way, I was in an advantageous situation, because I don't know who my ancestors were. So the ancestors that appeared and were willing to work with me are the only ones that I have any interconnection with. So I don't know whether there was any resistance at any. I mean, I have mentioned they were all female, and whether that's to do with me, whether that's to do with them, whether that's to do with deity, whether that's somewhere in the middle of it all, which is probably what's most likely, being like flux thinking, is like there's threads from every element.
Yeah. Our answer to everything today will be yes and no and maybe and absolutely.
Welcome to the flux. Yeah. Because we don't do simple answers.
Yeah.
But I think we worry maybe a little bit too much about working with specific ancestors sometimes. I think that you don't necessarily, you can honor a specific ancestor perfectly easily. You don't necessarily have to work with them on what's the best way of putting it? Like if you're going into doing spiritual work, spiritual healing, or you're going into that place, that's a very deep bond and deep connectedness to the particular ancestors that you're working with on key matters or whatever it might be. And I don't think that going in with like this rigid structure of it has to be this ancestor that I work with is going to get anybody anywhere, because they probably know better than we do what you need. And it's kind of like that yeah, you might think you know what you need, but you don't know what you need. So I'm going to give you what you need rather than what you think you need. And then that's how I get the feeling that a lot of ancestral work is, yeah, you don't know better.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know better than us. So come on, come to the fire and talk to me instead, is kind of like the feeling I get.
Yeah, exactly, though. That's my experience as well, is, that like pat on the hand, like, that's okay, baby. I know you want that, but guess what? Here's this thing. Oh well. I can hear my grandmother, like, people in hell want ice water too. Like, different kind of hell. But that whole tough. This is what you're getting because this is what you need. I absolutely have experienced that there too. Yeah. It is also part of learning about your internal and external self. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's perceptions. It's the masks. It's our way of understanding ourselves in the universe.
For anybody who's completely confused what we mean about masks, because we haven't explained this, right. Is that masks. Yeah, okay. So part of the work that I've been doing and I will continue to do and is on my blog right now, in so much as the rabbit mask is up, there is more to come down the line with this, is that I realized that this all began for me, a large part, when I was looking at the idea of masks. And I initially was coming at it from a negative place, like, why do witches feel the need to wear masks? And like, that's not who they really are. And they're presenting themselves as something that they're not. And it feels disingenuous to me. And then the universe is like, well, time for a flux lesson, Joey, because masks and wearing many, many masks is actually a practice within many spiritual paths that leads to better understanding. And it's like putting on the mask of someone else to see through their eyes to better understand and get that lesson. So when we are looking through the eyes of the masks of our ancestors, we get their lessons without being them. So it's kind of like, I am them, but I'm not them. And I'm within them, but I'm without them. And then I take some part of them into me and carry that forward. And that's what we mean by masks. We're not talking about, I'm not being real or anything like that. We're talking about like learning through the process of mask wearing, which is something that I've been going through a lot with my spiritual journey. And like I said, it's on the blog about rabbit masks, and there will be more of that to come. So if you're confused,
check her blog out. Check her blog out. She's got a lot of really good stuff.
It's all about this stuff right now.
Pretty much. Yeah, wearing a mask allows you to step outside of yourself and experience other. Yeah, exactly.
But this is what I said to Cris the other day, though. I said that she said this to me, and I said, but you also get a reflection of who you are in the mask as you're wearing it. So it's not just about taking yourself outside of yourself, but you also go within and learn something about who you are as well. So that's me getting excited. I'll calm down now.
Constant learning.
Constant vigilance.
Yes. Let's see. My grandmothers have come to me, so I feel acceptance from them as pagan. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, talking a little more about, your ancestors being of different religions. So, first of all, if we go back far enough, everyone was essentially like earth-based in whatever way you want to call that. So we've got those people as well. But if we're talking about perhaps a mother who was a devout Catholic or something like that, in my experience, I actually find that it tends to not matter as much. Like I said, it depends on the person and like their own stuff and how ready they are to like move on, if you will. But I have ancestors that are very close to me that were Baptist, Southern Baptist, and they don't really have an issue. As a matter of fact, I am someone who, and some people would roll over in their grave. Some witches would be like, "Ah!" and they would melt if they heard me say this. But
she's gonna take them on head on.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna hide.
My ancestral altar and my working altar are the same. I do not separate them because they are with me always. I am them. They are me. What is the difference? So whatever I'm working, they're working with me. It's like, you know, I use a description, being like Neo in the Matrix, and like when he would move and there'd be like all these lines of arms behind him, like that's them. And lines of arms before, like, so to me, it's one and the same. So to separate them is so alien to me. For other people, if that works, cool, go for it. Like, I'm not saying everybody do what I do, but I don't separate them. I don't. And that gives some people a conniption, and I'm sorry for your conniptions, but it works great for me.
I would,
and so my thing is like, you're telling me I don't have any of those in my line, because candle's not getting knocked over, no house is burning down, you know.
I think there's a fear element there as well. Like, people are afraid of what their ancestors would think of them from their ancestors' perspective, from their ancestors' life. And we have to remember that we are alive today because our ancestors went through their experiences. It's not up to us to live their experiences. And this gets on my nerves all the time when people are like, we should
That's
be
a
living,
really good point. Yeah.
we should be living like our ancestors. No. They lived the way they lived so that they survived. They learn those lessons. We live when we're meant to be living to learn our lessons, and we can honor all their lessons through our living, through our experiences. We are interconnected to them. We do not have to pretend that we are them, because we're not. We're where we're meant to be. So, yeah.
I'm over here like, preach. Yes. Exactly.
That's a Southern Baptist dinner.
It is. Hold on, honey. Hold on. Let me just. Woo! Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Like we aren't living their experiences. We are living ours. You know, if you look at the whole, like, we are the universe experiencing itself, like, yeah.
I know, right? Like, where would we be without central heating and the internet right now? Like, that's what I always say to these people. Like, you're arguing over the internet, or you like your shower, right? Like, I'm a historian too. I did history up to degree level, so I
am not.
I love history, I love mythology, I love lore, but we are where we're meant to be in the process, in the cycle, in the flux. We're meant to be here, not there. Yeah.
Jennifer says in the chat, just for anybody watching this later, as a historian, I really can't say that living as previous generations is too great an idea. We learn from the past to make the present and future better.
Hopefully.
And yeah, like I've often said, like, you can't tell me if my great-great-grandma had a herb blender that she wouldn't use that shit to save time. Like,
or let's take it even more serious. If the midwives back those days didn't have the medicines that we have today, they would totally have used them. If they could have saved lives back then and not been like strung up because they were a midwife that lost somebody, they would totally have engaged with that sort of medicine to protect babies and the mothers and themselves. So
yeah. I mean, I think our medicine these days also is a whole other like soapbox I'll get on about some other time. But no, I do get what you're saying. Like, if they had these tools, you know, available to them to see into the body in that way and do that in a faster way, then you know. But also, like, you know, hold on, is live, folks. So another thing too that I touch on is along this line of thought is the fact that, like, my grandma didn't have a besom and a broom. Like, she had a broom that she swept with, and that also swept out the energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it isn't, I don't know. I feel like sometimes we overcomplicate things for ourselves. That's what I feel like. I think, you know, this from the flux, I know, but Yeah.
I think we look back with rose-tinted glasses and we want the past to be something it's not.
Yeah.
And I understand the sometimes the need to take ourselves out of the present, especially when the present is ugly and difficult and nasty. But that's not helpful to anybody to be like, well, back in the day, our ancestors did it this way, and this way is better than our way because whatever reason. And it's like, well, that's probably not historically accurate. And well, we're putting value judgments on what our ancestors thought about it. And and I get into my historian mode, and I'm like, a fact is not a fact; it's a human opinion. And so. Yeah.
I mean, I think that, you know, history has its lessons, absolutely, and history has its place and its validity there, you know.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But we can't make it the past.
No.
Like, the past is the past.
For a reason.
The future is the future. It's very, And the present is the present because it's a gift.
Kung Fu Panda.
But yeah, exactly. Though. I think, well, and you know what, we do that with the dead as well. We do. We want to think the best always. And what ends up happening too, like as a death midwife working with this, is slightly off topic, but I'm going to go with it. As a death midwife working with it, is the people who are angry, the people who are, you know, resentful and that kind of thing, like they suffer in silence with their grief because they don't know how to grieve
the truth
by society's standards. Yeah. Because they feel locked into that silence from it. And the truth is that person was a person, and they may have done wonderful things for some people, but some people not so wonderful. And we all have very human emotions and reactions to that. So, you know, I just wanted to slip that in there for anyone who's out there right now that's sitting with that. We tend to glorify the past in that way as well. And it's okay to feel that way. That's
yeah. I just had the thought passed on that maybe that is why some people are resistant to working with ancestor work at all. They disconnect because they feel like they can't live up to an ideal of an ancestor rather than looking at what the truth of it might be. And I find it very unlikely that if you reach out you'd find any rejection there, because I think if you were going to find rejection, the people that were going to reject you aren't going to be there. But the people who will be there, who have taken on that role to speak to the living, if you like, who have something to impart, who want to still connect, they want to be there. That's the impression that I got. That's purpose to them. That's connection to them. That's still breathing life into an afterlife.
It's love.
Yeah. So I think people worry too much about like this rejection element that just to me hasn't happened at all. And I understand, because I felt that too, because I was like, am I going to be rejected by my ancestors because I basically told my immediate family that you're not my family no more after all this trauma and abuse and all the rest of it. I'm stepping away from you. I'm drawing a line in the sand. Did then my ancestors see me drawing a line in the sand as me giving up on people or something? And that didn't happen at all. So
no, they literally like rushed in at both of us. I started doing the reading, and it was like being at a concert and everyone rushed to the front gate all at once. And I was just like, do you feel that? She's like, oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever experienced, I mean, I'm not going to say that it has never happened, because I can't give finding answers like that, not in the flux. But I have never experienced someone being rejected by their ancestors as a whole. Like I've never had that happen. Most of the time they are just happy that they are there and they are connecting, and they are happy that they get to let them know that they're not alone.
And I mean, they might tell you off, Mine is
they're gonna.
mine is Spitfires, and
But-
one of the first things they
that's
did is
not-
tell me off. So
Yeah, but that's not
that's
rejection.
not rejection. That's, and I think we have to be careful when we're talking about, sometimes your ancestors will give you the hard lessons, because
Oh, yeah.
you've entered a death space, ladies and gentlemen. There is no cushy answers within the death space. It's like,
Welcome to the death space.
welcome to the death space, where all answers
We would
are
offer- yeah.
serious. Yeah.
We would offer you cookies, but we ate them.
But you will have to stay in the underworld for 6 months if you eat one.
Yeah, don't eat cookies.
Hades references again. I've got to stop that, or I'm going to be in trouble again. Yeah, they are. I think they kind of
Oh, yeah.
they lose the need to dance around the truth as well. Like, if you need to tell the truth, they're at the point now where they'll just tell you, is the impression that I got.
Yeah. Yeah, and they come in dreams a lot.
Mhm.
And gosh, after my father died, I had multiple dreams with him, and him bringing me messages about stuff that's going to happen or is going on, or things that I need to pay attention to. Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier about like physically experiencing them. You might not be able to hug them physically like you once did,
Mhm.
but there are ways physically that they do help you. I mean, when I got this house, after having a dream of my dad like being like, hey, I got you this house, and it looks totally different than this house. It's like, hey, yeah. And I'm like, that's cool, but we have a bid in, Dad. Thank you, but like I got this. And he's like, but yeah. And I'm like, no. And I woke up to a call that said that they had accepted the offer for that we put in for the house. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get what you're saying now. This house has things in it, certain things that are planted, certain signs, certain things about it that are direct ties to my father and my grandmother. Things that I could not have thought of to put in a house myself, but they were there. So I like to say that the ancestors found this house for me. And that's another example of like in the physical, they are still here.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't hug them. But they're still here. They're still doing things.
I mean, I haven't had that happen to me yet, but they have been saying to me that they're doing something. And I'm not going to go into details too much. If you're on the Facebook, you know that I've been having these dreams. It's connected up with that. I keep having these dreams, and my ancestors are involved in that process. They're keeping like, we are sending this.
Mm-hmm. We're sending in reinforcements.
We are set. We've got you. Because one of the things that I actually sort of said to them in the part of the process is like, I know that you are all around me, but sometimes in the physical realm, because I feel isolated, it can be scary as all heck, basically.
Yeah.
And that can stop us jumping. It can stop us risk taking. It can stop us doing what we actually should be doing. And they were like, we're sending help. Don't stress about it.
Yeah.
We're sending help.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that's going to manifest yet, to be continued, but they're very involved with that process, for sure.
Well, and that just continues that you are not alone. You know, like we're working on stuff. You're not alone. And that can be very, very comforting in good times, but especially in really shitty times in your life. So we've been here about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask if anybody has any questions for myself or Joey, to go ahead and ask them in the chat. So we can get that going. What the heck did I write on this? I think it was supposed to be archetypes, but
It's not.
it looks more like a Corolla types.
Hey, Corolla.
Welcome to Chats with Chris and Joey.
If we can't sing nonsense, There's no point.
Yeah. I don't know. So, oh, okay. Are you journaling your experience with your ancestors?
Yes.
I don't tend to journal. I just remember things, and if I don't, they yell at me.
I've been journaling this process because this process to me is the beginning of something. And a lot of the time I don't journal as much as some people do, because I kind of have that Celtic feeling of you shouldn't write everything down, and like spell work, I don't write everything down, things like that. I'm more in the moment. But with this, and particularly it being a lot of dream work, which is unusual for me, I'm like, right, I want to write this down so I can spot the patterns in the beginning, especially if it matters within my life and where my life is going, because the ancestors have come in to deal with a certain issue and a certain situation. So I want to have that journal down so I can, when I'm having my moments of, oh my God, anxiety attack or whatever, I can go back to my journals and be like.
So you're having moments where you turn into a Murloc, because that's what I just heard. For those who play WoW. Yeah.
Virgo Murloc.
Yes. Whole new breed. Yeah, for me, like I said, I don't journal because I just don't get the urge to. Like I said, they just yell at me if I forget. Yeah. And then let's see. Hi, Marwina. Let's see here. Is it just practice to learn hearing from ancestors in dreams versus dreams not necessarily meant to have messages?
Ooh.
Is it just practice? I don't think it's just anything, first of all. Like, first part of that sentence, just, no. Everything has a deep meaning here in the flux.
Welcome to the death space.
Yeah. Practice to learn hearing from them. I could see some people working with dreams easier. But I don't think that's always how it happens. Everybody has different strengths, and I think that it just kind of plays out in that way. Some people hear better, some people see better, some people dream better.
Some people have coffee divination.
Exactly. I was going to say some people can scry in the world. They do like augury, where they are able to just kind of pick out the meanings in, the sky or a tree or bark or the floor or something like that. So it comes in different ways, whatever yours is. Yeah. Versus dreams not necessarily meant to have messages. All of my dreams, because everybody goes, oh, I must have ate something weird and I got a weird. No, all of my dreams have messages.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yep.
Whether it is for me, whether it is for someone else, whether it is a spirit coming, like either way, they all have messages, even when they're really insane. I've had people come to me and go, look, I ate something and it's crazy. And yeah, but wait until you hear about this dream. And then I repeat back to them the symbology in it. And I'm like, what's going on with your stepmother? And they're like, whoa. So like, I think it's because we're so close to it sometimes that we don't see what's in it. But all of them have messages.
I think with dreaming as well, we get too stuck into rigid analysis. So I know what my dreams from my ancestors featuring other things were in reference to that. When some people are taking it from a more rigid outside perspective, they're like, well, maybe it means a part of you. And I'm like, it's not a part of me. And I know it's not a part of me because I've had those dreams where I've dealt with the masculine sides of me. And I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like. This had a prophetic feel to it. And because I know all the outside in and inside out,
yeah,
I know what it felt like. And I understand where people are coming from when they want to rigidly say a dream should mean this, a dream should mean that. But I think we get too stuck on in a dream, this apple represents this. And it's like, well, that represents different things to different people. And in the context of the
Right.
dream and the feeling of the dream.
That's exactly what I was about to say to Jennifer, because in the chat, she's like, I have health conditions that cause super crazy dreams. And I was going to say, like, and then she says, perhaps I'm uneducated in symbolism then. And I want to point out, like, first of all, don't downplay yourself like that, because we are our own Rolodex. We just have to learn our own Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, an apple means something entirely different to other people. To some people, it's the poisoned apple from Snow White. To some people, it's the fruit of knowledge. To some people, it is, the Adam and Eve situation. Some people, it's totally different, and you have to learn your Rolodex.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my advice to you on that one would be, if you do journal, start jotting it down and seeing what you feel when you see it. Pay attention to your feeling.
Well, I think my dreams are prophetic. Talking there about messages for the future, I'm pretty damn certain that my dreams that I've been having have been prophetic. And since working with the ancestors, I've had this divide where I have suddenly become more aware of that I am dreaming, and I analyze my dreams as I am dreaming them, which I talked about. I can hear myself doing it. Like, this means this then, because that person hasn't been in my life. So it must be and I've woken up like, oh my God, I'm such a Virgo to be analyzing my own dreams in my own dream space. That's just crazy. But then there are dreams that I've been having, which I am certain are prophetic. I'm certain of my ancestors being like, this is to come. This is where we're going. This is what you need to know. This is where you have been, but this is where we're going with it in this lifetime. And it's just been kind of fluxy. It's like there is a connection to the past and to where you have been, but this is where we're going. So I honestly do believe in prophetic dreaming. Some people are completely disregard of that. They're like, no, nobody dreams of the future.
No, I've had it. My mom does it. My mom does it more than I do. Like, that's her thing. And I totally believe in that. That is a thing. And that's something, again, where there's a different feel to the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where, and this is a frustrating answer, and I understand that, and I apologize for that, Jennifer. But the more that you feel it, the more that you experience in it, the more you will know what it is when it comes up. Because they feel differently.
I can put into words how these dreams feel differently for me right now, because this is a new thing. So when I'm dreaming and I'm analyzing dreams, it feels more meditative. It feels easier. It feels gentler and softer and more relaxing. When I'm having these kind of astral pushing dreams, which are more about like going forward, going into the future, or connecting to other people, they tire me the F out, even though I'm dreaming. It feels like an exertion of energy. It feels like work in some ways. It feels hugely enriching and kind of like expansive in the mind, like whomp, whomp, whomp. And so rather than it being like
tire you out when you're awake, even.
Yeah.
Like you wake up feeling like you haven't slept.
Yeah. And so the normal dreaming is just kind of relaxing, like watching a story unfold, but maybe I'm aware of it and maybe I'm analyzing it, versus these prophetic feeling dreams, which are more like going on a journey somewhere. That's what it feels like. It's like being taken out of the self somewhere, and it's very physical, very tangible, very tiring. So those are differences that I have noticed in the moment with the difference of these dreams, which is a newish thing for me, because dreaming hasn't been a big thing until lately for me. So
now you dream constantly, lady.
Well, I always dreamt constantly, but now it's become, instead of it being like disconnected, now it's all hooked in. Like it all has to pay attention. It's all doing something rather than just being messages.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next question we have is, if someone is just beginning this journey with ancestors, what advice would you give them? Well, this is where I shamelessly plug myself.
I'm going to do it afterwards then.
Oh, okay, good. So I have an Ancestral 101 e-course, Ancestral work. And that covers like a lot of the basics and things and different techniques that people use across the world, examples, so you can kind of find your own way. And then also I do intuitive spiritual mentoring. So I'm also available as like someone to help you through stuff and help you figure out your own Rolodex in the process of things like this and connecting to them. So there's that. Other than that, I would say meditation. Go into meditation, which I have one in the Ancestral course, just saying. Which Joey has done.
Seriously, I was going to say I'm going to plug twofold. I'm going to plug Cris again, and then I'm going to plug me. But I have done and worked with Chris's meditation and the music that she puts forward, and it's just worth it. Now the funny thing is about me and Cris, I don't think you mind me saying, is this: we tend to skip ahead in terms of meditation. Like people usually go slower, and I was skipping ahead because I was like, oh, I'm here already, Cris, come on.
which is hilarious, because I actually slowed it down for me, because I would have been like bam, 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 and done. But I was like, all right, look, you're not working with you. You're working with other people who are just getting into learning about this. So slow it down. And I told her that. And she was like, oh, yeah, I skipped ahead. And I'm like, okay, I'm just letting you know.
Because it was like, and then you go in, and I was just like, zoom. I was like, I'm down there. What now? But it was really worth doing. It was really awesome as a meditation. I really enjoyed it. And if you want to come to Starry-Eyed Supplies, there are tools right there that you can work with, such as Temple of the Dead and Temple of the Mourner.
Oh dear, hold on. Yes,
that can help you with that process if you want a physical item. And Cris has some, which is where she's going right now. And she's back.
I am back, and I am back
with
fabulous candles. So this one is Shroud of the Mourner. Look at the top of this, guys. Don't look at my face. Look at the candle. There you go. Look at that. And then just sounds.
I was going to say, guaranteed to make this noise.
Yes. And then Temple of the Dead. Which they look similar at first, but when you actually like, it's different. It's entirely different energy. But yet they're still like, yes. That's what I have to say about
this is flux energy. So noises, I think.
Joy has amazing items, so if you haven't ordered them, like, this is shameless plugging, and I realize this, guys, but you know, you asked. She has wonderful loose incenses too, as well, for that. And yeah, so my stuff is on chrisashburn.com. Hers is on starryeyedsupplies.co.uk.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So if you want to check those out. Other than that,
shameless plugging,
learning your Rolodex. Right. Learning your Rolodex and meditation. Going into that space where you're listening more and not speaking. Listen.
I think there's an element of learning to trust yourself as well with this, because even when you get to the point where you've been doing something for a while and you think you trust yourself, you get into areas like ancestry, and because it taps into familiar ties, which is often a difficult subject for people on some level, whether it be because of death, because of mourning, or because of like family issues, or because of abuse issues, or whatever, we can be highly resistant to it. And I think you have to learn to trust yourself as well as that relationship, and be open to it. I think that's the number one thing, that if you're not being open to it, then you're not going to get anywhere with it until your ancestors come knocking.
And to be open to it, you have to be willing to sort of face that fear in some aspect. Because that, I mean, like we said earlier, that's the fear of rejection, the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of you know, being permanently disconnected or having no one, or, you know, it's scary. But the stuff that's on the other side of fear is amazing.
As someone who,
And the stuff that you find in fear too.
hmm?
I said, and the stuff that you find within fear too.
Moana has a good question.
Yeah.
About
Your way. I don't see it. So go ahead.
I'm someone who does acts or incenses as offerings usually, but I feel called to leave alcohol out to my ancestors. Dumb question, but what do I do? Replace it daily, leave it out? Question mark.
Usually with. Okay, so first of all, I want to say, it's ultimately up to you what feels right. That's the preface. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, what I normally do, because I do have Anglo-Saxon side, so they like their ale, they like their mead, they like things of this nature. And what I normally do is I will leave it out for a certain amount of time until I feel called to, and it's usually not more than a day, max. Sometimes it's by the end of the ritual, and then I will dump it out by a tree that's sacred to them. So I usually give it to the land because the land is an extension of them. They are the bones that we walk on.
Oh,
you know?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I know. Joey's like, what?
Yes. Sorry.
But they're the bones that we walk on. So giving that to the land is giving it to them. So most times that's what feels most natural with me, because I can't like flush it down the toilet. That just feels utterly insulting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And then I don't want to leave it there because I have animals, and animals will bother things. Also, to quote Sterling Archer, that's how you get ants. So, I don't want to leave it too long. So usually I'll wait, and then at the right time when I feel called, I will dump it out. I have a yew tree that I usually pour things next to because for me, yews are very sacred. But whatever feels right to you, if there's a spot that reminds you of your ancestors, or a tree or a flower or something that reminds you of them, like I would put it there.
I do that at Samhain, especially. Where I have a little bit in a glass and I tip it on the ground, and I'm like, I give in offering of my ancestors all of those that have gone before. And the last time I did it, I got a huge visualization of going through like a Viking hall. It was crazy. I only put a very little bit out, and that tends to evaporate. So by the time that the day is over, that's evaporated. So I think it depends how much you're putting out and what you're actually putting out.
See, I fill the cup because I'm like, y'all get drunk. I
only put a little bit in my little offering cup each day, so that tends to evaporate out. And I put whiskey in mine, and then that evaporates out. But I really do like the pouring on the earth, and the earth being the bones, and the connection of the dirt and the.
You like the bone dirt thing, really?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sunshine and rainbows.
So surprising.
I don't know what you mean.
And then I like to top it off with some glitter. Joey style. Yeah.
Death. Death.
Yeah. Right. I'm glitter. But no, exactly, Marina. The flushing or throwing away seems offensive. I agree. It's just like discarding it when it's been this like honored offering. So, yeah, that's what I do. I give it back to the land. Right. Last call. Anything else? And then we gotta get Joey out of here because she's got stuff to do. It's a busy lady. She's over here like, hi.
I'm just being fluxy.
Yeah. It's flux with it. My flux dance. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. I see a bunch of comments about like, I wish I could get, watch this every day, and like I'm really enjoying this, and thank you. And that's awesome. I love that you guys are enjoying this.
We poked her into doing it. We did it.
It's true. It's true. I was like, I want to do something on my channel, but I don't know what. And she's like, let's talk about death. And I'm like, well, that's always an option. What are our Beltain activities? Well, I said the other day, I'm probably just going to go in the backyard and make a fire and burn some things as offerings. Oh, that's the thing that you can do with your ancestors. I burn things to them.
Mm.
I burn things as offerings. Or like incense. I'll burn incense as offerings as well. Actually, when I say sacred space, I usually do it with my ancestors because they literally surround me. So, so yeah, I'm probably gonna just light a fire in the backyard. Not the whole thing. I'm not lighting the entire yard on fire, but I am gonna light a little section. That's excessive. I don't have to be that real witch.
Hebs on the floor.
Yes. But yeah, so I'm gonna do that and then burn different things, and then I usually just take in the energy. Like I just sit with it. It's probably gonna be at night because that's how I roll. I usually like moon better. And yeah, like I don't really, when it's just me, I don't go, like I don't have like this ritual format that I do. I tend to be very simplistic with it. I think it's only when there's a group that you need that much in-depth planning, at least for me, I'm going to say, because different minds can be focused on different things and people can't be mind readers, you know, so, I mean, they could, but not well. And so things can get really jumbled. So in that situation, you would want something. But when it's just me, I mean, I have times where I'm just like, there's a blood moon water gathered back here. Where is it? Here. Boom. And I gathered that September of last year, I think it was. There was a blood moon, and it was like a super moon, and it was huge that happened. And all I did for that was I went outside, I spoke to the moon and the grandmothers, and I thanked them for being there. And then I was like, I got this water, yo. I didn't say yo, but I got this water, yo. And then I sat it down and I said, you know, may your energy and your rays fill this and bless this water, you know, so that I may use it in the future with your blessing. And they're like, I left it. And I went inside and I did my stuff. And I came back out later and got it. Like before the sun came up. So very simple, but powerful. So yeah, I think it doesn't always have to be like really, really extravagant, and that's okay. So what about you, Joey?
Something I do, I think Chris might like this, and I do this at autumn equinox with apple slices, but for Beltain, I go with rose petals, and I go to the graveyards and I put rose petals on the graves of the forgotten dead and the disrespected dead. And
you steal my heart.
This is why she loves me. And it's always been a thing with me because, and this is kind of, I can feel my ancestors touching my back now. This has been a thing with me where, because I didn't know who my ancestors were, a part of me, even throughout my practice, has always felt that need to honor the forgotten dead of those who have that, you know, their graves have fell into disrepair, they're not being cared for, they're not being visited anymore. And so I take rose petals at Beltain and I scatter them around the forgotten dead.
I'm just going to be in this position this whole time. Carry on.
And I will say a few words at the entrance and at the exit. So I might say a few words as I go around as well, but generally it's to the entrances that I am here to honor the lives of those people who have lived and loved and fought and died, who are no longer being honored on the earthly plane, so that their sacrifices, their lives are not forgotten in this moment where the veil is thinning. And then I will go around and I will leave rose petals on the forgotten graves. And then when I'm exiting, I have to be like, and this is where I leave it, because I don't want these people coming with me. So whilst I honor you and I give back to you, I ask that once I cross the threshold, that this is done, and then I leave and go beyond that space. So that's always been something that's been very important to my practice. It's something that I haven't been taught to do, but I have always done. And I've talked about it here, there, and everywhere. And I know that a couple of people have started doing it since I've talked about it. But
I love that. I have never offered petals. I do frequent graveyards, not to gather anything so much as just to, I've never really talked about this, so this is a new one. I will go into graveyards and I will stand by them and feel who they were and feel their energy and like remember them that way. Like know them, if you will, so they're not forgotten. And then, you know, I'll thank them for the life they've lived and, you know, whatever it was, and move on. And certain ones will just draw me more. And that's just something I've done like all my life. And I never really thought anything of it until you said that. And then I was like, oh shit, I've been doing that.
This is exactly what I mean about people like, you've never shared that, and then there's this connection to your ancestors, and then it's like, oh, me too. This is what it's been like all month.
Yeah. And you know, I didn't even think about it as like the forgotten dead, but that is absolutely what it was, because I would go to the ones that don't have anything decorated on them, that seem like they've been kind of abandoned for a long time. Or maybe one that just pulled me, like no one really goes here, like the pockets in the energy, if you will, where it's not as abundant. Those common paths leave that off. And yeah, so I think that is beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And like hell is very proud of that one. So good on you, Joey. I love that idea. See, I've always loved to be in graveyards since I was a little girl. My family would go camping in certain areas. We had to visit the graveyard so I could see them walking them. Yeah, exactly. Every time I see a new graveyard, I'm like, oh, we need to go back. I need to walk in it.
My grandma used to take us in graveyards, and we used to go look at the dates and things to do with headstones, because she was a big fan of history, the same way that I am. So that actually links to my ancestor that way as well. That my grandmother
is she the sassy one?
I don't think so.
On the phone, she would be like, "Look, that one."
No, I don't think she would be the sassy one.
Okay.
She stood her ground and had her opinions, but she wasn't particularly overt.
Okay. Well, there's stories that you've told me about one of them, and I was like, I like that woman.
That's probably her mother, because her mother was very like that.
Yeah. All right. So then it is 11:33 here, and it's even later where Joey is, and she's got stuff to do. So I am going to thank everybody for being here, but mostly I'm going to thank Joey for being on, because it's always so fun to talk to her and be in the flux.
I'll be back. You know it.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank everybody for being here. Thank you for your questions. And hopefully you guys, you know, got some helpful information from today. Again, check out starryadsupplies.co.uk for Joey Morris's wonderful store, and also Joey Morris on YouTube. And then her blog. What is your blog address?
It's all tied up with the store, so it's something like blog at starryadsupplies.co.uk. Let me double check.
All right.
blog.starryadsupplies.co.uk. So it's all tied into the Starry-Eyed Supplies.
And I will actually, once this posts live, I'll put all the links down below too, so that you guys can find it. So just wait a little bit on that if you want. And then I'll also put the links to my own, which is chrisashburn.com. No H, it's just Chris, C-R-I-S. And then also you can find me on Chris Ashburn Midwifery for the Soul on Facebook. And I don't have a blog. I just show up sometimes in hers.
All the time. I'm going to be doing a blog post about ancestors soon, and it will be like Chris. It's all Chris's fault. That's blog post? That's all going to be? It's all Chris's fault.
I will readily accept that blame. I will wear it like a freaking ancestral crown on my head.
The title is Chris and Coffee. I've decided.
Yes. Yes. Breakfast club pose for that one. All right. So thank you guys. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time. I love your faces. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.